so I'll show you. So, okay, so I've got my doors and windows now, and looking in the 3D view, the bathing space is still fairly empty. Well, we're going to be putting the design in there, so that's okay. But then a lot of these other spaces aren't complete either. We've got the doors in the walls, and of course we've got floors to define the bottom of the space, but then to define the top, we need a ceiling to finish that off. And what I might do just to get you started is show a ceiling over in the kitchen, and maybe then I'll add another one for the bathing space afterwards. So I'll just see what you maybe remember from last week. Where would you draw the ceiling normally? Which view? Over here. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, ceiling plans. That's right. That's right. So it's spot on. You can draw them in the floor plan.
No, in the ceiling plan. Oh, but yeah, of course.
Yeah. Yeah, it works almost the same way when you draw them in the floor plan. It's just that it's hard to see what you're doing. That's good, actually. If you're remembering that, that's really good, because that's something that most people do wrong. I did, I know. So it's tempting, when you go to make a ceiling, to go to the ceiling plan. So you're thinking, I'm making a ceiling, I'm going to go to my ceiling plans, and I'm going to go to the ceiling plan. Now, just looking in the section, try to think about the cut plane for each of those plans. So the ground floor plan, just starting with the one we've been using already, well, I'll just ask you, what's the height you'd normally have for a cut plane? Exactly. That's good, yeah. Yeah, a metre for hand drawing is what you'll often be told, but if you think about it, a metre doesn't make sense most of the time, because if you use a metre for stairs, you're only going to get the first 4 or 5 stairs, and normally when you see a floor plan, you'll see more steps than that before the break line. And in a room like this, for example, the windows are over 1 metre high, or the sill is over 1 metre high. So the windows wouldn't come up in your floor plan either. You just see wall. So normally make it higher than 1 metre. So 1500 is good. And so the ground floor has a cut plane 1500, which would be about here, going through the door there obviously, and all of these walls, cutting through and looking down. Now a ceiling plan is basically the same, except that it cuts through and it looks up. So if I go to the ceiling plan, where's it cutting? Up in space above that level. Revit doesn't know what we're using this for, it just knows we've made a level, and if we have a ceiling plan associated with that level, it's going to cut through 1 metre above that. So I'll show you what it will look like. You can probably guess. A big void, nothing. That's what you should be expecting to see. So do I even need the ceiling level ceiling plan? Do I need that for anything? What's it going to be showing? If it's cutting 1 metre above anything we've made and looking into empty space, that's right, it's going to show nothing. There's nothing there. It's looking into infinity. And so I don't need it. I'm going to right click in ceiling plans, of course, on ceiling. I've right clicked there, and I'm going to delete that because I won't need it. What about courtyard? Are we going to have a ceiling above the courtyard? Probably not. Don't need that either. Right click, delete, and already you've got it down to 1 ceiling plan. That's all you'll need for a project like this. Okay, so we've got ground floor as my ceiling plan, my one and only. Now, you've got to be careful because in the ground floor floor plan, everything except the doors will look the same. Yeah, exactly. That's right. Spot on. Yeah. Okay, so anyone want to be brave and guess what the difference is between the ground floor floor plan and the ground floor ceiling plan? Okay, just close some of these views so I can flick through them a bit quicker. Okay, so there's my ground floor floor plan. Here's my ground floor ceiling plan. And we don't want the section. There we are. Okay, so hopefully the difference is a bit clearer now when I flick between them. That's the floor plan. That's the ceiling plan. So what do you think the difference is? That's right, we're not seeing the doors in the ceiling plan. That's right, exactly. We've got wall above the door, and so this means if we can't see the door, that the cut plane must be much higher than it is in the floor plan. And that's normal actually, so ceiling plans often will have the cut plane up at either 2 metres or sometimes above the door head even. I try to keep them under the door head, but some people don't like to see the doors in the ceiling plan and they'll have it up at about 2300. So that setting won't work for this project because your ceiling height's fairly low and also because of the way we've made the levels. So essentially to work with ceilings you need to be able to set up these views, and notice how over here it says ceiling plan in properties. That's where I can set or adjust the settings for this view. So it'll say ceiling plan. If you click on an object you'll get the properties for that, but just click into an empty space or press escape twice and it should give you the view properties, which in this case of course should say ceiling plan. And I'm going to scroll down and show you one of these settings that is easy to miss at first but really important. It's called view range. So Raj might have shown you a little bit about this one last week. Maybe not. You might have just checked it in 3D, which is fine because this is a bit tricky at first. So again, you have to scroll down to find it, and you'll see there it's towards the bottom but not all the way. You'll see view range with an edit button next to it. And then when you click there, what do you know? You've got settings for things like the cut plane height. So if you do a design where you've got maybe windows that all have their sills at 1600, you can come in here and bring that cut plane up. And you'll often need to fine tune or adjust the cut plane height like I'm doing here. So that's 2300. That's why my doors weren't showing because that's above the door height. I'm going to take it down to 1800. So that I don't have to click OK and get out of it, I'm going to just hit apply and I can see the doors now. Then, the next one's a bit easier. I'm going to change the top and the view depth to unlimited.
I'm not getting it because I don't have it on the screen.
You're already making the ceiling. Just hit the cross up the top, the red cross in the middle. No, not that one. Not that. Cancel that. Yeah, see how in the middle of the ribbon at the top you've got a tick and a cross? Yep, just click on the red cross. That's it. Yep, that's it. And then if you just click into an empty space, then you're not even in your ceiling plan. So you have to go to your ceiling plan first. No, that's a floor plan. Yeah. Yeah. So you need to go to your ground floor ceiling plan. So ground floor, not ceiling, ground floor. Okay, and then see at the top you've got ceiling plan up above in properties. No, above that in properties you've got ceiling plan. In the next panel above, that's it. So you've got ceiling plan. So if you scroll down below that, so go down and scroll down and you'll find view range. See? Yep, that's right. Offset, that's it. Yep, the cut plane. And then unlimited for the other two. Yep. So cut plane, you just need to make 1800. And then the other two, you set them to unlimited. Okay, so this might not seem like an important step, but if you don't do this, you won't see your ceiling in the ceiling plan. Yeah, no, bottom should be greyed out. You shouldn't be able to change bottom. Yep, that's right. Yep. Yeah, you've got to set your view depth to unlimited as well. View depth, you've got to set to unlimited as well. Yep. Yep. That's it, just okay. Okay, it's one of those settings, you realise how important it is later, But I'd recommend you do that until you know why you're doing it. Just do that every time you make a ceiling, or you won't be able to put lights in. Yeah, 1800. But the more important thing is the top and the other one, the unlimited. Yeah. Okay, so that's it. Click OK, and then we'll look at the ceiling tool again. And I'll only be a second if you've got your doors. Yeah, that's normal. If you haven't got your cut plane set to the right height, that'll happen. Well, I'll have a look in a second. It's easy to fix. So I'm just going to quickly make a ceiling. This is the easy part. Once you've got that view set up, you can just click on the ceiling tool, and just make sure up the top you realise you've got automatic ceiling and sketch ceiling. Those two options. If you click on sketch ceiling, it's just like making a floor. So if you remember how you made the floor inside that area. Yeah, if you just keep it then, that's fine. Oh yes, yeah, definitely, yeah. So I'm just doing the kitchen, so you might not have a kitchen ceiling, you might have only done the bathing space, so it's good to have them as two separate ceilings. Yeah, you've got to click on the ceiling tool to do that, to get that. So it's just on the architecture tab. Yep. That's it. And then you'll see you've got the option on the right to sketch ceiling. But I'll come and show you in a second. I'll just finish this off. So, okay, so then just make sure you realise when you make things like ceilings and floors, sometimes you need to choose pick walls to pick those inside faces. Draw a line, just like you did for the floor. Fill it all together. So what do you know? I've drawn a rectangle. So the very last thing, before I finish it, I've got to set a height. So in properties, you can see here, it's got the level set to ground floor. I'm changing that to ceiling. And then the height offset, I'm going to make 0. And all that means is that it's going to sit exactly at the height of my ceiling level. Tick to finish. And you'll know if you've done it right because you should see the edge of your ceiling in the ceiling plan. But I'll come and sort out any problems you've got in a second. So finally I'll just show you the 3D view, and you can see there we've got a ceiling. So that's enough to start you off with the 3D views when you need those. But maybe just to get you thinking about the finished drawings as well, what would happen there with the walls in the end? If I want my ceiling to stay where it is, just go to shaded view so you can see it. So I want the ceiling to stay exactly where it is at that height. Exactly. So the walls should extend up to go around the ceiling. That's really important. So you can do that at any stage. If you want to start bringing them up as you go, that's okay, but you can always do that later. Okay, so just think about those things, but the main thing is that you get a ceiling in there. Yep, absolutely. And again, make sure you can see the ceiling in your ceiling plan, the ground floor ceiling plan. And we'll have a look at lights before long, but before we do that, we've got to look at modelling, which we'll do next.